Welcome back to my channel. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. It's great to have you here. The afternoon was heavy with clouds, the kind that promise both wonder and worry. The sky had turned a soft gray, and the streets glistened as if they had been brushed with silver paint. The drizzle began first, light and shy, like a whisper in the air, and in that quiet mist she hurried across the cobblestone street, her steps quick, her eyes glancing upward at the restless heavens. Drops of rain touched her cheeks, leaving trails as though the sky itself wished to greet her. It was then he appeared, almost as if the storm had planned their meeting. He carried an umbrella, dark and wide, and when the drizzle swelled into rain, he stepped closer, offering shelter. She hesitated for only a moment, then accepted with a smile as warm as sunlight breaking through clouds. The air filled with the soft patter of raindrops on fabric, and the sound of thunder rolled gently in the distance, like a reminder of how small they both were beneath the sky. Together they walked, shoulder to shoulder, the umbrella drawing them nearer than either expected. The storm around them seemed alive. First the drizzle, then the steady rain, then a flash of lightning that lit the path ahead. She laughed softly, startled by the brightness, while he spoke of storms as though they were old friends. He explained how drizzle feels like a kiss from the sky, how rain brings freshness to the earth, how thunder echoes like a warning yet carries no true harm when far away. She listened, her eyes shining with interest, as though each word taught her not just the language of weather, but the language of his heart. The storm grew stronger, wind tugging at their clothes, rain spilling beyond the umbrella's edge. Yet in that closeness, with their steps matching and their voices rising above the storm, it felt as though no force in nature could truly part them. The gray clouds, the drizzle, the thunder, the storm, all of it became a lesson not only in words, but in the beginning of something tender, something unspoken yet undeniable. And so, beneath that trembling sky, with rain surrounding them like a curtain, two souls discovered that sometimes a storm is not meant to drive us apart, but to bring us together. The storm had passed, leaving the air sweet and clean, as if the earth itself had taken a deep breath. Morning arrived with a sky so clear it seemed endless, painted in a blue too bright to doubt. Sunshine streamed across the streets, warming the stones and touching the rooftops with a golden glow. In that light they met again, not by chance this time, but by quiet agreement, as though the storm had planted a seed that only the sun could help grow. They walked side by side beneath the bright sky, and everything felt lighter, easier. The sunshine touched her hair, and it gleamed as if the day had chosen her for its own. His smile matched the warmth of the air, steady and sure, carrying with it a promise of friendship. With each step, the world seemed to echo their happiness. Children's laughter drifting from an open yard, birds singing with careless joy, and flowers lifting their faces to the sun. There was no drizzle, no storm to hide under, only the simple ease of sharing the warmth. They spoke of small things, books they both loved, dreams they carried quietly, stories of childhood that made them laugh. The light was all around them, a constant reminder that sometimes the most powerful moments arrive not in thunder, but in the quiet brilliance of a sunny day. He pointed to the sky, clear and endless, and she followed his gaze, learning the words that captured such beauty: sunny, bright, warm, clear. She repeated them with a smile, her voice soft yet certain, as if each word was not just about the weather, but about the way she felt walking beside him. The warmth was not only in the air, but in the space between them, where silence was comfortable and every glance carried meaning. And so their friendship grew in the sunlight, not forced, not hurried, but as natural as the day itself. In the brightness of those hours, they found a rhythm together, and the clear sky above seemed to open the way for something greater than either had dared to imagine. It was in the warmth of those sunny days that happiness first found a home in their hearts. The days of sunlight had carried them gently forward, but it was the breeze that began to change everything. It came quietly at first, a soft current of fresh air sweeping through the trees, carrying with it the scent of blossoms and the promise of something new. They walked together as they often did, yet on that day the air felt different, as if the world itself was shifting around them. The wind touched their faces and played at their hair, breezy and playful, stirring laughter from her lips and drawing his gaze longer than before. He remarked on how the day was windy, how the branches swayed and leaves danced in the air as though celebrating. She agreed, her voice carried lightly by the breeze, and in that moment the words became more than a description of weather. They were a reflection of their hearts. The world no longer felt still and predictable. There was movement, there was change, and they both could feel it. As they walked along the path, the wind wrapped around them, cool and refreshing, clearing away all the hesitations that once lingered. It filled their lungs, giving them courage, giving them clarity. She spoke more freely, her laughter brighter, her eyes meeting his with a new kind of warmth. He listened differently too, with a quiet intensity, as if every word carried meaning beyond its sound. The fresh air seemed to open a space between them, one that invited not distance, but closeness. The breeze lifted her scarf, and he reached to steady it, his hand brushing against hers. The touch was brief, yet it lingered like the whisper of wind through the trees. Neither spoke of it, yet the silence held more than words could. The world was breezy and alive, and so were they, carried gently forward by a change they had not planned but could not resist. It was not thunder now, nor sunshine alone, but the wind that marked the turn. What was once friendship shifted, as naturally as the breeze changes direction, and without effort their bond deepened into love. It was in that fresh air, with the wind carrying them onward, that their hearts finally began to belong to one another. The days that followed were no longer as bright, for even the clearest skies are sometimes covered by clouds. Their closeness, once so easy, began to feel uncertain, and the air between them carried a heaviness that words could not always lift. The sky itself seemed to mirror their hearts, cloudy, dim, and unsure. She felt his silence at moments when before he had laughed. He noticed her turning away when once she had looked directly at him. Small misunderstandings grew quietly, like shadows creeping in during a foggy morning. One day, as they walked together, the world seemed wrapped in a pale mist. The air was foggy, the kind that blurs outlines and hides the path ahead. She spoke, but her voice felt distant even to her own ears, as though the mist had swallowed it. He replied with words too brief, too uncertain, and they both felt how far apart they suddenly seemed. What once had been warm and sure now felt cool and overcast, the light dimmed by something neither fully understood. The days stretched in this way, each carrying its own gloom. Even when the sun tried to shine, the clouds returned quickly, covering the brightness before it could reach them. He wondered if she had changed, if her heart was drifting away. She wondered if he still cared, or if the bond they shared had been only a fleeting season. Neither asked aloud, and so the silence grew heavier, like the weight of storm clouds pressing down upon the earth. It was not anger that troubled them, but doubt. The cloudy hours filled their minds with questions, each one left unanswered. A smile misunderstood, a word taken wrongly, a glance that lingered too long or not long enough. Small things became large when viewed through the haze of uncertainty. And so the sky remained gloomy, as though love itself was lost somewhere behind the overcast veil. Yet even in that dimness there was a quiet truth. Clouds may hide the sun, but they do not erase it. Doubt may blur the path, but it does not end the journey. It was in those cloudy moments of doubt that they learned how fragile love can seem, and how deeply it must be cherished to endure. The clouds that had once been soft with doubt grew darker, and at last they broke into a storm neither could avoid. Words rose between them like thunder, sharp and echoing, rolling through the space that once held only laughter and warmth. His voice, usually calm, struck with sudden force, and hers, no less fierce, answered back. Each sentence was a flash of lightning, too quick, too bright, leaving its mark before either could take it back. The air itself seemed stormy, heavy with anger and hurt. Their closeness, which had once been a shelter, now felt like a battleground where neither wished to yield. Rain poured in their hearts, heavy and unrelenting, every drop a reminder of promises unspoken and fears unshared. She turned away, her eyes filled not with tears, but with a storm of her own, and he, stubborn in his silence, stood unmoving, as though the only answer was to endure the downpour. The fight carried on, not with fists, but with words sharp as lightning, splitting open the fragile bond they had built. Every moment was charged, restless, as though the very air crackled around them. The storm did not ask for patience. It demanded release, and they gave in to it fully, their voices clashing like thunder in the sky. It was not the drizzle of misunderstandings anymore. It was a tempest, fierce and consuming, and yet even storms cannot rage forever. When the thunder at last softened, when the lightning no longer lit their path, silence returned. It was not an easy silence, not soft or forgiving, but it was stillness all the same. Their hearts, bruised by the storm, beat slower now, exhausted from the force of what had passed between them. The heavy rain eased, leaving the world quiet, damp, and broken open for something new to grow. For in every storm there is a turning, a moment when the sky, however dark, begins to clear. Love may shake, may shatter in the storm's fury, but if it endures, it finds strength in what survives the thunder. It was in the storm before calm that they learned how love, like the earth itself, can be broken wide open only to be made whole again. When the storm had passed, the world seemed washed clean, as though every tear and every word had been carried away with the heavy rain. The silence that followed was not empty but full, filled with the quiet hum of a world finding its balance again. The sky, once so stormy, slowly began to open, and patches of blue returned. It was in that clearing that they saw it. A rainbow stretched across the heavens, delicate yet certain, a bridge of color against the fading gray. She looked at it with wonder, her face softened by the light that touched both sky and earth. He followed her gaze, and though no words were spoken, the meaning was clear. A rainbow appears only after the storm, only when the rain has broken and the sky has chosen to heal. It was more than a moment of beauty. It was a promise, bright and undeniable. Their fight, their doubts, even the thunder of their hearts now seemed like steps toward this, as though love needed to be tested to prove its strength. The rainbow arched above them, teaching them words that fit not only the sky but their hearts as well. Rainbow, clear, hopeful, bright future. Each word carried weight, each one a lesson in what they had endured and what they now believed. As they stood together, the air felt different, lighter, freer, filled with the scent of rain still lingering on the ground. She reached for his hand, and this time he did not hesitate. Their fingers intertwined with ease, as natural as sunlight returning after the storm. They did not need to explain or to ask, for the promise was written above them in colors too vivid to deny. Love had not been lost in the storm. It had been refined by it. The rainbow was not only in the sky but within them, a reminder that even when clouds gather and tempests roar, the sun waits to return, and with it comes beauty brighter than before. It was in that rainbow promise that they understood love was not only survival, but the bright future they were now ready to walk into together. And that was our journey, through rain and sunshine, through breezes, clouds, storms, and finally, the rainbow that brought love back to life. Every season of weather taught us a word, but also a feeling, a truth about the heart. If you felt the warmth of this story, let it stay with you like sunshine after rain. Don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who believes in love's rainbow. And of course, subscribe for more simple, beautiful English stories that brighten your day.